Because the more we tell them you must have this insurance, that insurance, and so on, the more they're going to second guess their dreams. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. I would say don't. Sometimes you have to just do it. Otherwise, I mean, look at all the technology that we have, all the amazing pieces of art, acting, everything that we have. All of them comes from people who have not bothered to plan too much.
Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, they're not planner. Most of them are not planner. Most of them are probably abysmal when it comes to finance. Many of them have screwed up their life. But so you can't, pull yourself down thinking about logic too much. I would say you have to go for it. I mean, in my case, I was the only son. My parents were both earning. That was a time when double income families were very rare in India, and a single child family was even more rarer. And they were saying, oh, what is this? Both of you guys are earning and your kid wants to do physics and you just let him.
Disclaimer, this episode of Let's Get Rich with Pattu may be a very short one. We know that from the start, Pattu and I, since we've discussed this. But we also believe it's a very, very important topic. In fact, within the team at Offspin, the more we discussed it, we wondered why it was not already part of Let's Get Rich with Pattu. We are 38 episodes into this show and we haven't struck upon this topic. In fact, I've written a few things, if you will allow me. I didn't want to mess up this introduction, Pattu. Today's episode is about the underdog, the dreamer, the financial underdog who dreams of a life well lived, right? And we know India has millions of dreamers. It could be a carpenter whose family have been carpenters for generations and whose daughter has big aspirations. An actor who has left everything behind, and I know quite a few personally. They've left their families behind in Delhi. Their families don't agree with their plans and their dreams, but they've left everything and come to Bombay to pursue their dream of being in the movies. It could be sports women and sportsmen who need to invest a lot of money to realize their dreams. And then again, if you add another layer, Pattu, what if you have a family that does not back you, right? It's basically about that person, Pattu, who is not satisfied with the maths of retirement planning, right? Our retirement planning on this show so far has been all about how you be smart about it so that you can ensure a comfortable retirement. But that's not good enough for them because they dream of a retirement where they tell stories about, that match-winning six they hit. That goal they scored in front of thousands of people cheering them on in a stadium. They dream of a retirement, for example, that carpenter who wants to tell stories to everybody in his retirement about how his daughter has this now amazing job, whether it's in New York, whether it's in Bombay, but it's an amazing job. And she's kind of broken out of this generational, trap of sorts that they've been in. And you, Pattu, said sometime in the show at some point that it all starts with belief, right? You must believe that you will be rich at one point, and then everything starts to fall into place from that point on. And these people have some of the strongest beliefs that I know of. And you also said at some point that you need money to make money. So how do we marry these two worlds, Pattu, where you just don't have the means today, but you dream of a much better life. You see talent, you see scope in your child, so you want to take that 1 crore loan, whatever it is, because they need to go abroad for something. It's about those dreamers, right, Pattu? It's about somebody whose maths does not fall into place. How does one start to think about these millions of people?
Yeah, it's a very tricky question, but also quite common. When you first pitched this idea to me, I thought, is it going to actually appeal to a lot of people? But then the more I dug into it, it actually does, and in different ways. Perhaps not everybody is in the entertainment industry where they
Absolutely.
it's project based kind of thing. Even for the salaried guys, or even for a person like me, an academic, I often tell the story where I finished school in 1992 and my first salary was, my proper tenured salary was only in 2006. So it's that time, that runway that you have to establish a career and so on. So before I talk about this formally, I was thinking about this and I was somehow struck by a thought I had. I like this mini series called Noble House. This is by James Clavell. Currently there's a popular series going on called Shogun in Hotstar. So the same James Clavell, and this was shot in 1989, and I saw it the soon after Star TV came to India in the early 90s. So there's a dialogue in that movie where there is a couple sitting in a bar, right? And for want of a better word, since ours is a family show, there are many courtesans in the bar, and so this guy asks something to the girl, and he says, all these girls, so he says something about, do they make a lot of money or something like that, and she says, yes, they make a lot of money, but most of it goes in, in keeping up with appearances, and so they get nothing. They just earn nothing. So that's very similar to, I mean, that's the first thought I had in mind when this came. And just as I was setting up our for this recording, I saw a Yahoo article, a Yahoo News article about a quote from Jeff Bezos that says, if you're going to swing for the fences, you're going to strike out a lot, but you're also going to hit some home runs.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right. And
that's exactly what this episode's about.
Yeah. So it's very tricky. So the way I see it, and what I tell people is that if you are young, this is the age in which you should take career risks. You can career risks are way higher than stock market risks. Stock market risks are mundane because you're going to put money into the stock market when you're 25, 30, you're not going to need it for the next 20, 30 years. So it's a very manageable risk. But career is not like that, because it's going to pinch you where it hurts the most. It's going to tell you how much you can spend and how much you can't spend and so on. But if you have a dream, and which means that you're able to back it up with action. So again, a Jim Carrey quote. So Jim Carrey famously wrote a check for $10 million to himself.
Kept it in his wallet. Yeah.
Correct. So when he talked about it, and he actually earned that much soon enough. But when he talked about it, he says, yeah, you can't write a check to yourself and put it in your wallet and go eat a sandwich. You got to go and work. And that is the point. So if you have the confidence that you will work to do the very best that you can to try and get close to your dream, may not achieve your dream. For many people, you may not get the actual version of your dream, but you may get close to some variant. And that's okay. That's more than enough. I mean, I tell myself, tell that to many people. Whatever I wanted in life, I've never got, but I've got close to it. I've got a version that's close to it, and that's when I go there and look at where I started. It looks fine. I mean, it's quite okay. So as long as you have the the drive to back yourself up and say, I can do this, then I think you should take all the risks you possibly can to follow your passion, because this is very crucial, because you'll end up being unhappy if you settle into a career, into a degree or that you don't like. And I think you will be unhappy for a very long time. That's where all this financial independence, FIRE movement, many of them, much of those thoughts are rooted in an unhappy existence. So if you, like they say, if you, love something that you're doing, you don't have to work another day. And that's where you're trying to go. And yes, I think you should take all the risks when you have the time to do it. Later on, after 35, 40, it becomes tougher. But the only thing is, when you're 35, 40, you can take those risks with some 5 years of expenses in the kitty. You can invest in your 20s, and you say, I'm going to change careers, start my own company, whatever. Then you can have 5 years of expenses, and then you have some kind of cushion. But in the 20s, that's when you can take even higher risks, and that's when you should rebel against your parents, relatives, etc. I know people, parents even today, they say, oh, a career in science, no, it's better to do engineering. Imagine what they would do if the kid says, I want to become a stand-up comic. or I want to be an actor or a director. There'll be huge opposition. So they'll have to break some ties. I would imagine. So the friends that you said, so it's going to be really, and every time it's like a ticking bomb. Every time, every month they don't come up with some kind of recognition or revenue or whatever you want to call it, people are going to needle them and say, oh, I told you so, I told you so, come back, there's still time. But you still have to, that's that. I mean, I have serious respect for them. And I would say that I think go for it. That's very crucial. Don't worry about financial planning. You can always come. See, there's something that happened to me, and also something that my friend Sapnil Kande, a SEBI registered advisor, keeps saying. When he sees two clients, the client A who started working from the day he finished engineering, let's say, and a client who did not have proper education, who went through all kinds of ups and downs, university of life, and so on, but they ended up, finally getting close to what they wanted to do. This guy, the second guy, can make up for lost time by investing more, because they will be earning more, hopefully, and they can make up for the lost time in financial planning. That's what I mean by in retirement planning. They can always make up for it in their 30s or even late 30s, maybe even close to 40s. But if you start early and you say, I want some, if you are going to settle, towards safety, stability kind of thing, then you may not be able to invest enough because your income may not grow enough. So there's also so there are risks
That's a
there.
lovely way to put it. Yeah.
There are risks everywhere. It seems as if you have a stable income, you're not taking risks. You're taking a risk there also. It's just that we don't know it. So I would say, what is more important is, do you really have a dream, or is it just some passing fancy? That is what you need to be very clear about. And the sooner you are clear about it, the better off you are. So this is, I mean, I knew I wanted to be a teacher in my 11th standard.
And how did you come to that phase when you knew it was not a passing fancy?
It's we've talked about this before. It's like love, it just hits you like a bolt of lightning. But for that, you need to listen to the calling. Calling's always going to be there. Are you free from noise? Are you, not distracted enough to listen to that calling? I was actually a very introspective guy. I was an introvert. So I was able to listen to the calling. If you're an extrovert, if you're always with friends, partying, doing this and that, you are not going to listen to what you actually want to do. It's a theory. I can't substantiate the data, but for people, I mean, I've seen a lot of people who struggle, but the introverts, they are very clear about what they want. And so that's where you got to be clear
But
about it.
that's amazing, Pattu. I think the first half of this episode has all been about philosophy, and it's so reassuring to hear you, of all people, say go for it, because I think that's the crux of it all, right? If you have a belief, and as Pattu says, the most important thing is make sure it is a dream and not a passing fancy. And once that is clear, go for it. Right, Pattu? Now, from the philosophy and the encouragement that you've given, how do we go towards something tangible that we should look out for? See, there are two types of people. One who has to take a huge financial risk, but perhaps a loan of several lakhs and several CR. I mean, we don't even want to go into that category, right? And there is no real clear roadmap or math. So, are there any guardrails you can put in place? Look, if I look from a perspective of, say, if you have a business plan, Pattu, if you have a startup, if that's your dream, then you have projections, then you have a roadmap. I'm going to invest this much in capital or take a loan for capital. And therefore, stage wise, by year 2, by year 3, I know if you're going the right direction or not. But what if it's not a business and it's just a dream, and there's no way to put math to it? No way to put projections to it. Are there any other kind of guardrails, safeguards? Do you go step by step? Is there anything you can throw light on from something tangible?
So it is hard, but one thing you can do is, and I think everybody should do it, regardless of what they're doing, how their career paths have been, is to generate some kind of a cash flow chart.
Okay.
Let's talk about it for a simple salaried guy. No, so a salaried guy should project the salary that they're going to get in the future, their expenses in the future, their EMIs, and how much they're going to invest and so on. Once they put that on a spreadsheet, then things would be so much more clearer. That is
Mm.
one of the first things I did 12, 13 years ago. And I think for these kind of guys, if they're going to, if they have to spend lot more than they can afford to by taking a loan, etc., and so on, they're going to ask, they'll have to ask themselves, how soon are they going to break even, in the sense that how soon are they going to get an income from which they can start repaying that loan. So they're going to have to project that. It may not be, you don't need a spreadsheet. At least you can write it down on a piece of paper saying, I'll have to
Mm.
do that in 5 years, or that things are going to be very bleak for me.
Right. So it's like give yourself timelines, give yourself deadlines. I
Correct.
think that's
Correct.
very important, even if you're in that dreamy phase.
Correct.
Go
So
ahead,
that's
Pattu.
where, so that is the thing. So that is where you, so if your dream does not involve a lot of capital,
Mm-hmm.
then by law you should definitely go for it when you're in the 20s, because that's it, you will never get the chance again. But if it does require a lot of capital, for example, if you want to suddenly become a pilot and you need a couple of crores to get yourself certified as a pilot and so on, then it's maybe better to kind of wait, take a job, accumulate some money so that the load on the loan is going to be less, or work part time, something of that sort. And so that you tell yourself, look, I'm not stretched myself too thin.
Hmm.
And so that's one way to do it.
So perhaps project expenses also while you pursue your dream. Have some kind of projections for some side income, something that can support you. Have deadlines. Uh, and I'm getting a little bit of reminder of our freelancer episode part two. Maybe have some kind of insurances in place. Which ones do you think are critical?
Health and life, definitely.
Okay.
Of course, an emergency fund will also not hurt, but it also depends. If some guy who's fresh out of college may not have access to this, but they definitely can buy health and life insurance, because that's going to be very inexpensive as long as they don't have any bad habits like smoking and so on. It's going to be quite inexpensive. They can manage that. But yes, but these are, I mean, it's very hard for us to I mean, it's easy for us to speak, but hard for the person who is going
Yeah.
through the journey to think about all this. Because the more we tell them, you must have this insurance, that insurance, and so on, the more they're going to second guess their dreams. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. I would say, don't. Sometimes you have to just do it. Otherwise, I mean, look at all the technology that we have, all the amazing pieces of art, acting, everything that we have. All of them comes from people who have not bothered to plan too much,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean,
Mm.
they're not planner. Most of them are not plan. Most of them are probably abysmal when it comes to finance. Many of them have screwed up their life. But so you can't, pull yourself down thinking about logic too much. I would say you have to go for it. I mean, in my case, I was the only son. My parents were both earning. That was a time when double income families were very rare in India, and a single child family was even more rarer.
Mm.
And they were saying, "Oh, what is this? You both of you guys are earning, and your kid wants to do physics, and you just let him." Don't you? I mean, I went and joined some innocuous college close to my house. Of course, it has its own name and so on. But in terms of career prospect, it's fairly not that high. And people were appalled at that. But my father said that's what he wants to do. My mother said that's what he wants to do. So we let him do that. The trust they gave was the fuel. So you have to go for it. You can't get
That's
bogged down
amazing.
too much. Yeah.
What about tell us a little bit if you can and as much as you would like to Pattu about the students you teach at IIT, right? Have they been through very tough journeys? You hear a lot about this entire world of quota and how people go there to pursue their either IIT, their dreams, and it's so tough and it's so expensive. What are you seeing as a trend? Are people is it well planned out, or is it more of the people just parents just believing in their kids and going through all kinds of means to make it happen?
Um, I'm not very familiar with what happened before they join.
Mhm.
But after they join, I can tell you, you meet all sorts of people. I mean, you meet the rigorous, studious guy who'll act as if it's still school and work,
Yeah.
and some people who have just let go completely. You get all sorts of problems, but they also have a lot of difficulties at home. They have parents who are
Mm.
sick, parents who are divorced. Those kind of, they carry a lot of baggage, but they all have dreams
Mm.
of making it big. They have dreams. The dream is still there. But I would say some of them have lost the drive to chase the dream. Not all of them, some of them. So you have to, that is where they have to tell themselves, look, I have to be clear about what I want to do. I can't simply party, fool around with friends. You talk to everybody, all my hostel mates, and while waiting. I mean, if you have been in a hostel, you would know it's very easy to kill time. I mean,
Mm.
you can just go to each other's room and fool around. Nothing will happen, but so that kind of a thing. So time management and focus is a problem everywhere, not just in IIT. Everywhere. That is where they need to kind of align themselves, reorient themselves, which is hard to do.
I guess that's part of any human journey, Pattu. You'll have your ups and downs, and
True.
motivation is probably the toughest thing in life, to keep that consistent. And I think the people who really make it have kind of nailed that. But I ask my question more from a financial point of view. Do you see a lot of them under financial duress because they're pursuing their dream? And then what is their solution in mind? Is it they just expect that they'll do really well career wise and then pay off those loans? Or what is their perspective on this entire financial angle of them being in IIT?
Many of them are actually disappointed they can't afford the top tier colleges
Hmm.
for a postgraduate.
When you mean abroad?
Anywhere,
Anywhere.
the IIM and so on. See, because I once was asked to talk to a group of IIMs. Sorry, what is it? The MBA is the top tier, and all of them had loans, 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs, and so on. So it is hard. There is a lot of stress and pressure for them to come good on that investment. It is seen as an investment,
Hmm.
and that is the problem. If you see your education as an investment, you're going to put undue pressure on yourself. So you'll have to.
It's a very powerful line, Pattu.
I mean, it's easy for me to say that, because for some families the child has to earn.
Yeah.
Then that pressure is automatically there, and but I mean, if you can afford to uh, not have that pressure, then you definitely should not have that pressure. That is, see, that has been our dream. I've been talking to a few people about, what if we can create a platform for our children where they don't have to work.
Hmm.
What that means, then what happens in social media, they'll say, oh, this is bad, your children should work, you should not give all your property to them, or whatever, wealth to them, whatever. No, that's not the point. You're basically creating a platform for finding themselves.
Hmm.
And can you do that? Of course, it's a multi-generational thing. We talk about fire, independence, coming out, changing from one social station to the other, and so on.
Exactly.
It There are 2, 3, 4 generations involved in that, and sometimes we are, we are like in a relay race, we are the guy who is finally carrying the
Yeah.
baton, or we're just going to pass on. We're just going to
Hmm.
be the guy who somebody else is going to stand on our shoulder. Our children are going to stand on our shoulder. That realization may come late in life. It's too, you can't tell that to yourself at 20s, but you still have to push and drive to achieve that excellence.
Hmm.
That is where I think the happiness is. Betty Davis said, um, happiness is just hard work.
Right.
It's not any of those experiences, anything. So can you drive? If you have the drive and if you back yourself, I will do it, I can work hard enough. That is something very rare, and very very few students I see, they don't have that backing.
Hmm.
They're not backing themselves. Others won't back you then.
That's a beautiful way to end this episode. I guess every parent's dream is that their child is the Usain Bolt or the anchor leg of the relay race, right? And they rush towards the finish line. But I think the take home from this episode, Pattu, is very reassuring. Go live your dreams, live your life, imagine a retirement when you tell these stories, and perhaps go through our previous episodes and you'll find some tips and tricks if you want to get down to the nitty gritty on maybe you have some guardrails in place, have some planning, reassess stuff every year or two. And I'm sure we're here, we're not going anywhere. And in fact, if you're a dreamer and listening to this show, please write in with your experience. Pattu and I don't have all the answers. Perhaps you do with your experience of living your dream and achieving something. And if you share a story, you inspire one more person imagine the world we live in. So, on that note, thank you for this episode of Let's Get Rich with Pattu. One of my most enjoyable ones, Pattu. Not that much financial, not that much numbers, number crunching, but even more enjoyable. So, yeah, live your dream. Pattu, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Any last words? You were about to say something.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it too. I think we should think about it's a balance. Again, it's a balance of when to crunch numbers, when not to crunch numbers. It's very hard finding that balance. I mean, when you have the time, you can afford to, do that. But anyway, so I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.